The Last Airbender is a family animated fantasy series created by Michael DiMartino and Brian Conexco, starring, Zach Tyler Elson, Mae Whitman, Jack DeSena, Dante Busco, Michelle Jill Murphy, Marco, Greg Griffin, Andre Seleju, Cricket Lee, and a ton of others. And this review has been a very long time coming because I actually have a pretty interesting history when it comes to this show. I didn't watch this show until 2020 during the pandemic when it came out on Netflix. The funny thing about that, though, is that there was really nothing stopping me from growing up with the show when it came out the way it did. I was 8 in 2005 and I would have been 11 by the time the show was finished. But funnily enough, during the original run of this show, I never watched a single episode, and I'll explain why. I think when I was the age I was, when this show was being advertised on Nickelodeon, I just didn't seem to really be interested in it. It didn't seem to be like my type of show. It never seemed that appealing with me. I didn't really like the art style, or at least what it was shown to me. I was more into like SpongeBob, you know, Cat Dog, all the older Nicktoons, and this just seemed a little bit too different for my tastes. So I kind of ignored it, and it kind of just passed my radar, quite unfortunately, because when I watched this show in 2020, it showed me exactly what I was missing, and I will say right off the bat, the show did blow me away in quite a lot of ways. I'm still not entirely sure whether it is worthy of the highest ranked animated show of all time, but it's definitely up there for sure. It is very, very impressive for a PG show to say all the things that it has to say, because it gets very serious and dark at times while still having that PG rating, using it in a very smart way, because they do hold back quite a bit on some regards, but you can see that they're exercising restraint with heavy topics, yet not trying to make it too, let's say, intimidating or too traumatic for a family audience. Because there is a lot of things that this show discusses, and I will get into that a little bit later. So first off, I want to talk about the animation. So the animation in this show is pretty freaking fantastic in a lot of ways. Though sometimes it doesn't look as good as it does in other parts of the show. Sometimes it is brilliant, and sometimes it can look a little bit crummy. I think I've kind of thought throughout that the show could have been a little bit more colourful. It does sort of have a little bit of a dullish, hazy effect when it comes to a lot of the shots. It has a wide colour palette, but yet for some reason it feels a little bit subdued and muted at the same time. I think maybe this was a deliberate creative choice, because the show is a really excellent mix of light and dark. It shows that they live in a pretty broken world that has a lot of terrible things going on in it, but at the same time it is a kid's show, and it's a lot of hopefulness in it as well, and a lot of kindness and empathy and forgiveness, and it is an incredible story of redemption, I will say that. But there are a few things that I have an issue with, but I will discuss later on. Another thing about the show that did really also blow me away too is just how incredibly paced it is. It is only 3 seasons long, yet every episode in the series, at least from what I remember, has a purpose in driving the story forward. I think there's only maybe 1 or 2 flashback episodes and maybe 2 or 3 fillerish episodes. It is a very, very neatly told package for what it is, and it doesn't go on for any longer than it needs to be. I mean, like, this show would have probably done 5 seasons, I don't know, 4 seasons discussing the 4 elements, because there's only 3, yet the magical system includes 4. I did at first have a problem with the magical system. I thought it was a bit too restrictive, restricting every magical type to 4 very rigid elements. But the way they're used and the way they combat over the 4 that are built in the show is extremely creative and very inventive. By the time the show was finished, I couldn't really think of anything else that they could have done with the idea. I think they really went above and beyond when it came to that aspect. And most of the characters are pretty well written. I think there are some that are a bit more well written than others. as I said, they're not perfect, but they are very good and very human and very believable for being an animated kids show character. So I will give props on that. I personally loved Aang's story, and Aang is definitely the character that I like the most in the entire show. I do know he is the protagonist of the series, and he's kind of supposed to be that way, but even though the supporting characters are great as well, but he was the one that I really sort of related the most to. And funnily enough, the character that I related least to was Katara, and I'll explain why, because there was a particular episode at the very end of this series that I didn't really agree with, and that episode was the Southern Raiders. And in this episode, Katara and Zuko kind of go on a side quest to find out the person who killed her mother, and Katara is really wanting to kill this person, but at the last minute restrains. And I really like this. This is a really, really brilliant choice. But the one thing that bothers me is that at the end of the episode, she said she would never forgive him ever. And I'm not sure if this is completely realistic, because when you come and think about it, this character is Katara's only true enemy in the entire show. It is obvious that this is the person that she hates more than anyone else. And for being kind of like the character like embodies empathy and forgiveness, I find it pretty odd that at the very end of the series, not at the start, at the very end, she states that she will never forgive this man. And I mean, it's hard to say because like I haven't been put in that situation. Both my parents are still alive, but I have held grudges in the past that over time really were kind of useless, obsessing over. Nothing as major as this, nothing really, but like it's just hard for me to think that, you know, she would stay that way for the rest of her life. I do know, I'm kind of overthinking this one episode, I know, but there is a 2025 movie coming out in a couple of years where they're all grown up. And I'm kind of hoping then she will have maybe the maturity to maybe let this go and finally maybe exercise some forgiveness for the one person she truly hates. And maybe there will be a scene where maybe Ronya and Katara will meet again, and maybe this time she will forgive him. But I don't know, I'm thinking too hard about this, but that was the only one thing that really I had kind of negative feelings about, but the rest of it is pretty much flawless in that regard. I'm pretty sure if I think about it too hard, I will find something. I'm very hypercritical, but that's really the only thing that sticks out as me as a flaw. But apart from that, this show is really good, and it's pretty obvious to see why. Even though I didn't grow up with it as a kid, and probably if I did, I would have a different stance on it than what I do now. But when I saw it in the 2020 isolation, this really got me through, and I really liked it for what it was. And funnily enough, I haven't seen it since, so I haven't really seen any of the episodes again, though I probably should. I'll probably find it somewhere and rewatch it sometime, but like, funnily enough, the Southern Raiders is the only episode I've watched again, and I'm still not sure what to feel about that one. But anyway, I'm giving this one a 9 out of 10. I was so close to giving this a 10 out of 10, but what I said earlier about that episode and just a few things pushed it back to a 9. But I do see this as being a definite much-watched show of any age, and it definitely has a legacy, that's for sure. And it really pushed Nickelodeon to a different gear during that time, and I think they're kind of still in that gear, I don't know, but this is possibly the most impactful show that the network had, and I'm kind of excited to see where the future of this series, this franchise, this story will go. Legend of Korra was good too, though it wasn't as good as this one. I also listened to the podcast that started in 2021. I listened to a lot of that, really enjoyed it, though in the past couple of months they've stopped making episodes, and they're getting pretty close to finishing the series, so maybe they've had enough, maybe they'll go further, but who knows. But overall, I really enjoyed this series. I had a few problems with it that I wanted to share, but overall, it's definitely a really good show, a fantastic show. So that's my opinion of Avatar: The Last Airbender. I hope you've enjoyed what I had to say. Did you like the show? Did you not like the show? It doesn't matter to me. Let me know in the comments below. Speak what you want, it doesn't bother me. But anyway, as always, thanks for watching. You guys are the best, for supporting the channel, and take care. Thank you.